So we just sat down and watched a couple movies, so let's talk about them. We'll start with the last one first because it's the freshest in our memory.
All
This is The
right.
Price We Pay, starring Stephen Dorff and Emily Hirsch. Emily?
Emily?
Emil
Emily
Hirsch, I
Hirsch.
think is how you say his name. So some pretty recognized actors here. And the director of this is okay, the thumbnail for the trailer,
Thumbnail?
which is
Insane.
wild. It looks like something from a Necrostorm film. Um, but the director also had me very intrigued. This is the director of Midnight Meat Train. He also did Downrange, which was a Shudder film from a few years back that's super gory. Movie's got really horrible acting. But it's just like a sniper who's like picking people off and they're like hiding behind a car. That's the whole movie.
Oh,
And when
God.
they get shot, man, they explode their freaking limbs, everything. It's a wildly violent film. I loved
Yeah.
I loved that stuff. And then he also directed a movie called No One Lives with Luke Evans, which was actually like a WWE movie back in the day when they were making movies. I don't think they produce movies anymore. But I quite like that movie. There's a little twist to it. I'm not going to say if you haven't seen it, but it's a cool film. So three films that I like, and with this cast, I was like, all right. And so this is about some guys who rob a pawn shop and an innocent girl who's in there trying to get some money for something, and they take her hostage and they drive out into kind of the middle of nowhere and their car breaks down, so they have to go over to this nearby ranch or barn or whatever, ranch, right?
It's like a ranch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not the worst things out there.
No.
So this plot line, I mean, Stephen Dorff himself has been in a movie like this, Botched, which I'm a huge fan of, where he's like this thief who gets put on this job, and then while they're trying to escape, rob the place and escape, they run into someone worse than them. Obviously, The Collector, right, with Arkin. He tries to break into a house
Yeah.
and rob the safe, and there's something worse in there than him. The movie Malevolent, the first film in the Malevolent trilogy. It's people who are trying to get away with a crime, and they get out there, and there's something worse out there. There's a movie like The Cottage. I mean, there's a
So
lot of
many.
these like criminals running into the bad guy movies
Yeah.
that I've watched. So many. That's just four off the top of my head.
Right.
But I've seen, Jesus, 50 more. No exaggeration. So this is a pretty typical storyline. But I'll let you go first. What do you think?
I really liked the gore in this movie. I mean, I wanted more, of course, but I liked what we did get. I thought that there was some pretty gruesome stuff. But I kind of wanted to be I don't know. I don't know if I was maybe a little checked out in the film, but I didn't feel as uncomfortable with some of the gory scenes as I thought I would. I don't know what that was. I don't know if it was me or if the film was lacking in some way, but that was just one thing I noticed when we were finished. I don't know. I enjoyed it. Like, I don't love it or anything, but it reminded me of a mix between like Hostel and Barbarian.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
with a family instead.
Some Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, and some Texas
vibes.
Chainsaw vibes too. So
I think Barbarian's definitely apt. Hostile to a degree. I would go more with Turistas.
I haven't
But
seen as
I don't-
many of those types of
I know,
films, so
I
yeah,
know.
you probably
but
have
it
a better.
definitely much more Turistas, and if
Okay.
someone who's seen that, they'll probably figure out what this movie's about. And there's a few other movies that I could name that are just like that as well, because this is. I try to tell people all the time, like people are like, "Oh, this movie was unoriginal," so I hear that all the time from clients and this and that, and it's like there is no more originality.
Yeah.
They make literally thousands of films a year, and they have been for 100
So
years.
long, yes.
Right? It's done, man. Like, you're not getting an original storyline anymore. It's just not going to happen. It's either, it's kind of like, it's like my career, right? It's like haircuts. There's only like 4 haircuts. right? And then there's a combination of those 4 different haircuts that make sub haircuts, right? And that's the same with film. It's just like you're going to take any film you see that has an original plot line these days is just a mixture of this film and this film, you know?
Yeah.
And they've just put a fresh coat of paint on it, right? So as far as like the whole originality thing, I don't even care about that anymore. I'm not even here to get original anymore, but I just want to point that out. Yes, this film is definitely not original.
Yeah.
In any way, shape, or form.
I didn't want to compare it to the other films to be like, oh, it's unoriginal. I just
I didn't think you were at all.
Yeah, I know. That's just like the vibe.
But I've been sitting here comparing it to like I've named like 5-6 titles already, and you've named a few titles now. So we are comparing to a lot of films. Yeah. But that's because what film isn't?
It reminds
us
of those.
Every one of those films I named, I can say other films that reminded me of those that became before it. It's just this is what it is.
Yeah.
But overall, I liked it. I definitely thought it was worth a watch.
Yeah.
There's some cool parts. I felt I didn't like Emile Hirsch's performance in this. He tried to be like this psycho, sadistic character, and I just wasn't buying it. I don't know if that's just because I don't find him intimidating, or if he just was like, I'm not on like a big budgeted studio movie anymore, so I don't really care. I'm just gonna kind of give whatever performance.
Yeah.
I thought he was okay. This also reminded me very much of From Dusk Till Dawn, the Gecko brothers,
watching it.
right? Like Steven Dorff and Emile Hirsch are like the Gecko brothers in this, and Emile Hirsch is freaking Quentin Tarantino's character, and Steven Dorff is George Clooney's character. So we got a lot of those things going on in here. The story kind of, and we also get Vernon Wells in here from Road Warrior and Commando, which was great to see. I haven't seen him in friggin' forever. But yeah, I don't know. The story just kind of like, it peters along, it does its thing, and it's like, okay, you get this set up, and you're like, all right, let's go. It's fine, it's watchable. Nothing is like bad. I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah, I've seen this, and like I want to get to the violent stuff. I want to get to the meat of this. And we get there, and it goes for it, and it doesn't. Right. It's kind of like they go for it here, and then or they go for it here, and I don't know. I kind of kept feeling like a little bit of a roller coaster of my emotions towards this, where I'm like, oh, that was cool, and then kind of the next thing I was just like, meh. And then it was just like, oh, that was pretty cool, and then I was like, okay. So I was just that's how I felt during the film. But overall, I definitely think for people that are into lower budgeted indie films that are more like gross out gag, I don't want to say hillbilly freaking family, but somewhere along those lines, kind of film. Then this one's worth a watch. Yeah,
for sure. I think the roller coaster of like that's how I was feeling too. Like I couldn't quite get super invested, but then sometimes I was invested, and then I don't know, just some things worked and some things didn't, but the effects were pretty good.
I had no emotional attachment to anybody.
No, and I definitely feel like we needed, or we were supposed to have an emotional attachment to her. For sure. Yeah. And her performance was fine. I didn't have any issues with it, but I don't know. Maybe it might have honestly, I don't know. I was going to say maybe the film was a little shorter than it needed to be, but I feel like everything was accomplished properly and like the pacing was fine with it. We didn't have enough time maybe with her before to get super attached.
If the kills would have been like rad and we could have gotten some good connection to the characters, that's what would have fixed the film. Those are the two downfalls of the film, because it is trying to be a gross out gore film. Which I love. Yeah. Some people aren't going to be into that, and that's fine. Yeah. But go watch something else. But like, for people who are into like, overtly gory graphic films, this film like kind of dipped its toes into that. And it was
Right.
like, yeah, we're that kind of film. And then after, after having seen something like Downrange, which is super freaking gory, I'm like, well, come on, man, you could have given us that. Right? So I don't know. Maybe it got cut out. Maybe they're trying to get an R rating. And it's like, if it's going straight to streaming, like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Can you release it unrated? I don't know why any, like, straight to VOD movie worries about an MPAA rating.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, who gives a shit?
Absolutely.
Like, anybody's gonna watch it that wants to watch it anyway. It's not like kids are like, oh no, it's unrated, I can't watch it. Like, they're gonna watch whatever the hell they're gonna watch if their parents aren't around. So you're not stopping anything. So just make it as fucking violent and gory and graphic as you want. That's what I personally want. That's what I would make. Like, if I started making films, I wouldn't even want to bother with the theaters. No. I would just be like, let's go straight to VOD, Shudder, let's buy this film, let's produce it, and let's promote it as an insanely graphic, unrated film. Trust me, you will get a lot of eyes on this film. Trying to appeal to the MPAA and sell to, like, everybody?
No.
Just screw that. Just sell to horror fans, and trust me, word will get out. There's enough of us. Look at Terrifier 2.
Oh my gosh,
you think
seriously?
that, like regular people are going to see that movie? Pretty much zero are, right? It's only the hardcore horror fanatics that are like, oh my god, it's freaking, Art the Clown's back, and it's going to be super over the top, violent and graphic, and that's why people went out to that movie, because it was unrated. Mm-hmm. Like, I just don't understand why companies don't get this fucking fact. It's so simplistic.
Yes.
Make an insanely graphic film, and then sell it that way to gore hounds. It's pretty simplistic.
Yeah.
Put a budget behind it, because every film that does that has like a budget of like $4, and us, we just, we see the trailer and we're like, oh, it looks terrible. So you got to have an actual budget. Anyways, this film was fine.
It was.
Definitely worth a watch, but nothing to write home about.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move on. Bye.